You're trying to perform as someone you aren't. And the dirtiest method hits deeper than you expect. Because it forces you to bury, once and for all, the childish belief that being a nice guy is enough to spark a woman's desire. It demands that you swallow the hard reality. Attraction is a game of value, tension, and emotional gravity. While you put all your energy into being the polite, understanding, always present man, she registers just one thing: predictability. And in the world of desire, predictability is the graveyard. You live in conflict with a truth you refuse to say out loud. That you're terrified of being labeled wrong, cold, rude, or selfish. So you wear the mask of the flawless gentleman. You respond instantly. You overcorrect. You agree with everything. You bend yourself into a shape that causes no inconvenience. At the same time, you're hooked on female validation. You feed on every text, every smile, every reaction. Because without that little hit, you feel empty. Behind all of this is a silent panic. The fear of showing interest and being turned down. The fear of being exposed as the man who tried, and wasn't chosen. You don't see it. But your behavior broadcasts a message into her subconscious. I will do anything to be accepted. The blunt truth is uncomfortable but simple. Women don't desire the man who sells himself cheap. The man begging for attention. The man trying too hard to look perfect. They respond to contrast, to the impression that you have options. To the presence of a man who doesn't crumble under pressure. And who stands there not from desperation, but from choice. Attraction doesn't grow from excessive goodness. It grows from presence, unpredictability, and your ability to refuse. Robert Greene calls seduction a silent game of power. The seducer is not the clown trying to entertain. Not the servant trying to please. Not the nervous boy asking for reassurance. The seducer builds emotional gravity through contrast and controlled attention. He moves slowly, strategically. He lets silence work for him. He offers presence in measured doses, calm, provocative, intentional. Her desire awakens when she cannot decode him fully. When she senses he might slip out of reach. When she realizes he is not just another applicant for her approval. That is why this method is called dirty. It shatters the romantic fantasy that kindness and availability are enough. It forces you to face the mirror and admit, I didn't lose because women like bad men. I lost because I played without strategy, without emotional strength, without reading the field. The dirtiest method doesn't teach you to disrespect anyone. It teaches you to stop kneeling for attention. And start operating with standards, boundaries, and masculine composure. And this isn't empty talk. Research from the University of British Columbia shows that women are more drawn to men who display confidence and a subtle edge of arrogance. Far more than men who appear overly sweet, overly smiling, or overly submissive. In other words, what you call niceness is often interpreted by her brain as insecurity, neediness, and lack of inner strength. Both science and experience say the same thing. The man who positions himself as needy loses before the game starts. And that's what this video is going to do. Destroy the harmless nice guy fantasy. And give you a psychological method rooted in contrast, mystery, and controlled masculine calm. No lines. No gimmicks. Just the mechanics of becoming the man who chooses, not the man who begs to be chosen. Later in this video, I'll open a private section from my program The Code of Seduction, where I teach the real structure behind feminine psychology, advanced behavioral reading, and emotional dynamics that are not floating around random videos. But before that, you need to understand something painful. This is why she doesn't pull away because you're too good. That's a lie you tell yourself to avoid facing reality. She pulls away because you offer no tension, no contrast, no spark. You don't activate her curiosity or her competitive instinct. Your behavior is flat, predictable, emotionally polished to the point of boredom. Research from Northwestern University's speed dating studies reveals that people choose based on presence, energy, and confidence. Not on flawless behavior or perfect words. The man who tries to please loses to the man who simply exists with force. The first step of the method is internal rupture. Stop trying to prove you are a good option. Proving places you beneath her. Show standards instead. Posture. Controlled rhythm. A gaze with intention. Don't respond instantly. Don't be available 24/7. Don't over-explain. Over-explaining is what men do when they hope to persuade, not when they hold value. Remember. You choose to. You're not here to beg. You're here to evaluate. When she senses this shift, everything changes. Now we reach the core. The dirtiest method, creating emotional tension without asking for anything. The moment you ask for attention, validation, or reassurance, you lose. Not because she's cruel, but because asking reveals dependence. And in attraction, dependence kills desire. Women approach the man who radiates a field. An invisible gravitational pull that makes her want to step closer. This field is created through reciprocity and emotional scarcity. Scarcity creates value. Abundance dilutes impact. The dirty method isn't manipulation. It's mastery of rhythm. It's knowing how to adjust presence, curiosity, and intention with precision. You don't send constant intensity. You don't offer endless availability. You don't pour your energy everywhere. Emotional scarcity is not coldness. It is self-discipline. And that discipline breaks her expectations. She's used to men rushing, explaining, chasing. When you show calm interest, with no urgency and no hunger, she feels something she won't admit. Curiosity. Why isn't he trying like the others? This is when you become the exception. And exceptions are the ones women pursue. Studies from the University of Rochester show that attraction grows when a person maintains autonomy. Interest without dependence. Warmth without losing their center. It's not distance, not coldness. It's the aura of a man who is whole by himself, but still chooses to be present. To apply this method, step into controlled tension. Never reply as if you were waiting. Your timing reveals your independence. Break predictable patterns through light provocation. Subtle contrast. Elegant honesty. When she shows interest, don't close everything fast. Build the tension gradually. Lead the rhythm. Leave space for her to invest. Space creates desire. Space creates pursuit. If you want to go deeper into the psychology behind these behaviors, into masculine calibration, female emotional coding, and the structure of attraction, all of that is inside the code of seduction. A system based on psychology, experience, and emotional mechanics that few men ever understand. Now let's confront the most important part. How to use the method without becoming a manipulator. Most men hear dirty method and imagine lies, tricks, or emotional games. That's the mindset of insecure men. True masculine seduction is built on honesty, presence, and control. Manipulative men act out of desperation. Centered men act out of clarity. Studies on emotional regulation show that people who manage their impulses and reactions are seen as more confident and more attractive. Emotional stability is not boring. It is powerful. A man who doesn't react to everything. Who doesn't fall apart because of a single message. Who doesn't get shaken by a hint of interest. Becomes rare. And rarity generates value. Here's the dirty truth. You stop being needy the moment you stop asking permission to exist. You stop seeking approval the moment you stand from your own structure. The deepest expectation break is this. A seductive man is not ashamed of being a sexual man. Not a desperate boy. Not a friend pretending to care. Not a nice guy hiding his own desire. A sexual man. Direct, calm, clear. Who feels desire but is not ruled by it. This polarity is what triggers feminine energy. Women don't desire the man who pretends he wants nothing. They desire the man who wants but does not collapse. Science backs this. Research from Florida State University shows that women are drawn to men who express confidence, assertiveness, and self-control. The perfect middle point between firmness and calm. This combination activates both safety and excitement. Rare. Magnetic. This is why some men never struggle for attention, while others fight for crumbs. Applying this method requires brutal honesty with yourself. Stop hiding your intention behind safe friendliness. If your desire is romantic or sexual, let your presence reflect that. Not aggressively, but clearly. Your behavior should speak your intention. Without over-explaining. Without apologizing. And always calibrate based on her signals. If she withdraws, you withdraw. If she moves forward, you maintain the tension. This rhythm builds both trust and desire. This is the difference between the average man driven by fear and the magnetic man driven by intention. Once you embody this, your presence becomes louder than your words. This is where your identity begins to shift. An identity is the foundation of attraction. The dirtiest method is simply this. Stop living on your knees for female validation. The truth that closes this entire message is the one most men cannot bear. The dirtiest method has nothing to do with tricks or lines. It begins the moment you kill the emotional cowardice you've been carrying since adolescence. It's dirty because it destroys the polished image you tried to build. The polite, always sweet, endlessly available man who believes that being pleasant is enough to inspire desire. Seduction doesn't come from emotional cleanliness. It comes from presence. From the strength you contain rather than distribute. From action, not pleading. Nietzsche spoke of the will to power. Not the childish act of dominating others, but the internal power of mastering yourself. Seduction begins there. When you control your impulses. When you stop seeking permission. When you stop treating women as sources of validation. And start seeing them as possibilities, not salvation. The will to power gives a man the authority to choose. And the difference between the man who wins and the man who suffers is simple. The winner chooses. The loser begs to be chosen. The contrast between these two worlds is brutal. The common man lives obsessing over replies. Over notifications. Over signs that confirm he still matters. The man who applies the method builds his life first. His body, his mind, his routine, his mission. He elevates himself. And lets attraction follow naturally. He doesn't chase attention. Because he knows attention gravitates toward genuine value. And research confirms this. Women respond more to stable confidence, purpose, and emotional control than to temporary beauty, money, or flashiness. Attraction is not created by surface shine. It is created by internal strength. The man who stands with clarity. Who holds his silence. Who does not need approval to exist. Awakens desire in a way that cannot be ignored. Psychology makes it clear. Women connect most deeply to men who govern themselves. And here is the final truth. None of this works without consistent practice. None of this works if you keep feeding the fragile version of yourself. Seduction is reading, timing, energy, presence, and intention. It is construction, not luck. The dirtiest method demands courage. Because it pulls you out of the safe zone where you have never won. And if you want the full structure, the advanced strategies, the deeper mechanics behind emotional tension and feminine psychology, All of that is inside the code of seduction. When you cross that threshold, you will finally understand why some men become unforgettable, while others remain unseen.